Stop using very. Use a better word.
Very is a fine word.
Yeah, but then like I hear myself using it so often. I'm like, you can do better.
That's terrible.
Is it dreadful? Is it very terrible? I'm sorry.
It's very terrible. Yes, it's very hurtful to yourself. Don't be hurtful to yourself.
I won't be.
Welcome back to the channel, my friends. I'm your host Ronan, and this is another episode of Hardcore Fiction. Hardcore Fiction is my neat little podcast that I put out there, and we talk about, well, whatever the hell we want. We talk about comic books, we talk about movies stuff, we talk about games, we talk about nothing at times. And today we're choosing to talk about movie stuff, and I also have a returning guest.
Hey,
it's Kelly. Welcome back to the channel, Kelly.
Well, thank you for having me back.
I'm happy to have you, and I'm excited to have you here today too, because today we're going to be talking about something that we have found ourselves, strangely enough, talking about a lot of times, passing the joint back and forth, roasting this thing, and just going back and forth about it and doing all this. And I finally decided, you know what, we're going to sit our asses down, we're going to smoke some joints, and we're going to talk about this. And if you've already seen the top of the video, then you know what we're talking about today. We are talking about Twilight. All of it. We're talking about the movies, talking about the show, we're going to talk about the fanfare behind it. We're going to even throw in some of our own little ideas from time to time. So if you can keep up with us, go ahead and spark your joint. Maybe you'll be able to keep up with us too, or take your drink, your snack, whatever you got, and yeah, get ready for some strange conversation about Twilight, I guess.
It always puts a strange smile on my face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, it's not fantastic intellectual material. It's just a weird teen fantasy that wasn't well edited, and it's just fun to make fun of.
Yeah.
It's so bad it's good. And I was a hardcore fan, which makes me shudder and cringe. So I feel like I have extra dibs on making fun of this stuff.
Well, I mean, were you, so like hardcore fan, do you mean like you watched the movies and you read the books, or were you just more of like...
I read the books and I was super excited for each release, and then the movies, and I was Team Jacob.
That was my next question too. I was going to be, so which one were you? And if you ask a person who is in a Twilight, they're going to, if you ask them which one were you, they're going to all know what you mean. Were you Team Jacob or Team Edward?
It was the hugest thing. I even had a t-shirt at one point.
Did you? Oh Lord.
I don't have it anymore. It's gone. But I see it, the trio, the main cast.
What do you think a lot of people's, like, the big problem that people had with the movie? Like, what was the big issue? Like, what do you think is the biggest thing that didn't hit home? And, like, because, it did do something right. I mean, it had millions of people behind it, and people that probably still love it till this day. I know a couple people that say that they genuinely, like, love those movies. They like all of them from beginning to end. They watch them regularly. Like, I've seen them all because I am the youngest of 6, and I also have 3 older sisters that were fans of it, and one of my older sisters, she like made me, and I use maybe very loosely. She had me sit with her, and we watched all of them. Remember, we sat down, we watched all of them in like a couple days, and I watched them with her, and of course I'm watching it, and I like to know my enemy a little bit, If I'm going to talk about something and have a firm grasp on it, I try my best to at least get an understanding of it and to learn it enough to have a solid opinion, whether it be negative or positive. And I guess my opinion on it is, and it's something that we've talked about in conversation, is like it had so much potential, in my opinion, to be very unique and to be amazing, I think. But it just, I don't know, it felt really weird and short, and the love story was really weird just in general to me. It just gave me weird vibes the whole time.
Yeah, like, from my perspective, I was a teen, so, like, having no experience or understanding of how the world worked, it seemed like a fluffy, bright fantasy of, like, oh yeah, of course she would meet her soulmate in high school, and amazing, he's this crazy, fantastical creature, and he's gonna make her immortal, and they get to live happily ever after with their kid. And
creepy CGI baby.
yes, that was so creepy.
Ugh.
I think they wanted to make money off it, and that's why it got a little funky. But some of the source material, like rewatching, skipping through it, I guess I will rewatch it minute by minute eventually. But like the one thing that set me off was like when Edward was talking to her, he just shows up at her house. You know, he's just standing in her backyard, and she comes home from school, and he's like, take a walk with me, and she's just like supposed to say yes, because he hasn't been at school. There's no cell phones apparently to contact him.
Right.
So now they're in the middle of the forest, and he's like telling her that they have to leave. And like it felt like a weird power dynamic, because the scene beforehand, he drove her truck back to her house. They had a little chit chat, and then he walked away, and it's like, I know you're a vampire, so that isn't really a long walk for you.
Right.
But that's still weird behavior, like.
Well, yeah, because we see how he moves around in there. Like, most vampires move around all fast forward, speedster like they kind of like blurs and they just kind of run everywhere. But
so it was kind of like him just walking away after that like conflict. It was kind of dramatic.
Right. It just, that's what I mean. Like everything felt like.
And he's like,
they did it in like the third take kind of thing. Like, yeah, that's good enough.
Pretty much. I heard the director was hard to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So like the actors and actresses were probably trying to do their best, and he's like, no. You're doing fine. This is good. Just move on.
Right.
But the material itself, like at times he seems controlling. Cause he's like 109 and she's like 17.
Well, it's like when you find out your boyfriend is well, not even your boyfriend, your love interest is like this killing machine. Like, it kind of means like you can't disobey.
I mean, that's worse than being in an abusive relationship.
In a way.
As
like,
if you could outrun me.
Right.
That whole demonstration was weird.
That didn't look, that wasn't like a grasp of like love to me. That was like.
That was aggression.
That was aggression, but it was also her, like, him doing all that. She was like, yeah, I'm still down.
Yeah, she was just.
Like, red flags much?
She loves red flags. She blew all through them. Like, even the. the bolt.
That's a different Twilight movie.
Oh my goodness.
Told you. She's got a way with words, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so like the big vampire council, whatever the hell they're called. Even they made a note of her being so accepting of our kind. And it's like, yeah, that's strange. That's why we're here. That's the whole story. And even just that little moment could have been a better movie than the romance arc that Twilight took.
I think that was the big thing that we always went to whenever we got frustrated and we were in our conversations about Twilight, which we've had many. This is going to be like maybe like our 13th, 14th time maybe. So and I'm lowballing it, y'all. Like, of us having the conversations about Twilight. But like, I feel like I don't know, I feel like the stories that made up the movie, the characters, like they had good ideas for these scenarios, and they just took the scenarios and made the character, like, you know what I mean? Like,
they smushed it into their story.
Yeah, like everybody in the background had more character going on. I was more interested in the side characters than I was in like Bella and fucking Edward's story, because like it was a weird, to me it felt like the person who wrote that, obviously, I think they said, what's her name, the girl who wrote it?
Stephanie Myers?
Yes, Stephanie Myers wrote it as like a fanfic of or no, that was the other way around, wasn't it? The 50 Shades of Grey was supposed to be a fanfic of that. Okay.
Yep.
But I guess the point I was trying to make was it felt like a fanfic. I was going to say 50 Shades of Grey meets Inuyasha. But it felt a lot like Inuyasha to me. A little bit. when I watched the movie. Like I spotted a lot of Inuyasha traits, like when she's on his back and they're running together,
Oh shoot, dang.
and him being like this demonic creature that is shunned away and not supposed to be accepted, but she's very accepting of it. And then her having another love interest who just so happens to be a werewolf, a dog-like creature. And then if you go into Inuyasha, Kagome is with Inuyasha, who's the monster, the demon, and then she's got the other love interest who's Koga, and it's the guy, I think his name's Koga, and he's like the wolf guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, that's what when I saw it that way, but that could have just been me just trying to connect invisible lines.
I mean, now that you lay it out like that, it makes the parallels are there. I don't know if she like
meant it, but
right.
Yeah. I mean, but it's definitely there in my opinion.
She just dressed it up in modern day.
It almost was, because I mean, Inuyasha also in the
She is still a teen girl.
Teen girl.
Yeah.
Inuyasha's really old. He's old. You know, he's supposed to be like an ancient demon, I guess, isn't he? So like he's an older. He doesn't age the same, even though it was the spell that had him connect to the tree or whatever. He still aged slow or whatever. So
Yeah, but he's only half demon, so that's why he's like an outcast.
yeah. But I don't think they ever mentioned like them being outcasts or whatever. Like their family, the Cullens. I think they're called. Yeah, they're called the Cullens here. But what were one of the things like I guess I kind of got off topic, huh? Big surprise of like we mentioned it before, like because you'd say like we should write stories of Twilight.
Like, yeah, like shit. Might as well just make a whole new story. That's all creation is.
Yeah, nowadays especially, like you can't get any movie that's not a fucking remake of something that came out 30 or 20 years ago, or a part 2 of something that came out
now,
20 or 30 years ago.
Hollywood can do better. They got the money too.
Oh yeah.
It's these independent filmmakers and foreign films that are way more interesting.
We'll think about it when we get to be even older, in like our 50s and 60s, and we're gonna see like movies that we've seen when we were younger and be like, oh, I saw that in theaters.
Oh my god, I haven't been in a theater in years.
Yeah, I want to go see that new Dune movie.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It would be nice to go to a movie theater and just try to enjoy the experience.
And last time I went to the movies, it was nice. I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Definitely sneaking in snacks.
Oh, I always do.
I mean, we'll pay for the popcorn, but...
No, I don't pay for anything. I pay for the drink at most, and the drink is nowadays like fucking almost like $5-6 for the fucking bucket of pop they give you.
Dang. I mean, I was just kind of looking forward to the extra butter.
Yeah, I mean the popcorn. I mean, there's deals and stuff you can find to get hookups and everything, so it's not completely bad. I still strongly and I'm still strongly endorsing everybody to go to the movies. We're not encouraging. Sorry, not endorsing. I have no money to endorse anything. Don't come at me, anybody. But yeah, I encourage people to still go to the movie theaters because I think movie theaters are great.
It's a third space. It'd be nice to...
It's a neutral spot to enjoy movies with friends.
Yeah.
And family.
Nice to hang out.
But yeah, man. Sorry, I took us way off topic. We're supposed to be talking about Twilight.
Yeah, they jumped to Inuyasha.
Did we jump to Inuyasha? Yeah. Oh man. Anyways, but one of the things that I mentioned that was extra, we're still going to talk about the weird shit. I figure we can kind of layer this up. Let's talk about the weird shit about Twilight, and then we can talk about the good stuff, and then we can talk about what we would do with it.
Okay.
I think we should maybe carry through that way, possibly. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of the Twilight movie, if you've seen it, and also let me know the direction you would take it if you had your hands on the wheel of the Twilight movies. If somebody theoretically came up to you and was like, here's an X amount of $1 million, make me a new Twilight saga.
Remake Twilight.
Remake Twilight. That's your remake. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies. Remake them.
You know what I'm doing first? I'm not splitting the last
right.
into two. It's one movie now.
So yeah, continuing on the weird train though, since we're going to be on that one for an indefinite amount of time.
It might just pop up now and again.
Yeah. The biggest one for me, I'm going to get this one out of the way. The weird fucking shit with Jacob and the baby. That was weird.
There's one thing I want to immediately bring up. Like, that final vision Alice had when they're all at the beach and they're embracing each other and the girl seems to be grown up and she's with Jacob. when he imprinted on her, was it some weird soul divine thing that, because how is she attracted to him like that?
Maybe it's gonna be something she feels too?
Because, like, yeah, how does that work?
Heavy
like,
question mark on that?
He is like, it's creepy. He's watching this baby grow up, and he's like, that's gonna be my future wife someday.
I'm gonna fuck that baby one day.
But, like, what about her autonomy and her feelings? Like, does she, like, feel this weird draw to this dude that changes over her life? And she's like, I saw this dude as a brother, but now I want to fuck him. Like, what's going on her end?
By the way, people who are listening, do not take any of the shit we're saying out of context, or I will fight you. We are completely saying shit out of the top of our head and no way meaning it as us being into babies.
Listen.
At all.
We have a joint to our right and Taco Bell to our left. This is cheap entertainment, you guys.
That's true. If you don't have Taco Bell to your right, or the left, a joint to your right, then what's the problem?
It don't matter which side, but
either way. But yes, that was back to that. And if I'm sorry, but that's really weird though that he thought that. Like, I get it, and I remember one of my exes that was watching that movie. She's like,
it's
and I'm like, oh, he fell to his knees. It was so intense, the love he felt. I'm like, that's gross.
But it's weird. It's not going to be a fatherly love her whole life.
It would have made more sense if he would have looked at her instead of like imprinting onto her. If he would have just seen her and just like, if they would have shown him looking at her and then like Bella's like eyes flash through his eyes when he looks at her, and you'd be like, oh, he's got her eyes. So he'd be like, oh, like that's him basically being like, that's our kid. Like him feeling that way instead of him being like, oh, like that's my new mate. Him instead that being like, oh, like that's our daughter. In my head, like, oh, I wish that was our kid.
Right, because like naturally, I feel like that's what you're supposed to feel when you look at an infant.
Yeah.
Like, even in a fantasy world, if you're gonna try to do an imprint love at first sight, they gotta be like the same fucking age.
Something.
Close in
or at least
age.
Something around there.
They both, cause like I'm sketchy about like teens falling in love. Like even then, you're still only 16. So like maybe make them a little bit older. Like it's a known thing. Werewolves are gonna imprint at like their 21st birthday, so that's why they have big get-togethers, and they're waiting for that zing when they see them. Like that makes more sense.
Another weird thing that I want to point out is, I know we're going way off from like we're over here talking about Jacob and the baby being weird, like
it's Twilight,
weird future mates and possible and or fuck buddies. I don't know. It's really weird. But let's move on from this. Is from the 100 back down to the 0. How weird was the fucking makeup in that movie?
They caked it on. It was so white. It was not blended into their neck, and I feel like they added green tint lighting to try to like give a pale olive a weird cast.
Something, because it was, I don't know.
Trying to convey like how cloudy and cold and dark it was, and
yeah, everything was like greenish blue, kind of overcast colors, but then like
they had a little bit more color in the later movies.
Yeah, because in the later movies when we see some of them, like I think they caked the makeup on them to kind of make them look like, make their skin look more flawless, like they are like more. Because what do they look like? They're made out of like granite or like marble or something when they get broken open and they get killed. Like their necks open up and they look like they're made out of like stone. Like they don't have any like organs.
Yeah, they just shatter like rock. So I guess it makes sense they're trying to make them white like marble.
Maybe, or maybe that's just what happens when they die. They just turn into rock. I don't know. That's.
Oh yeah, for sure on that part.
That's one of the other things that just made no sense to me was that it's like, why? How are they all of a sudden they're stone and now they're sparkly in the light and like.
I always thought it was to convey that like, oh, they can't come back from this. This is what a vampire death looks like. Like your flesh is somewhat fleshy,
right?
Until like I guess your head is disconnected enough that like you can't repair that. Myers, we need answers.
Oh no, you took my head off. Damn it! Now everything on me's rock hard.
Oh, son of a bitch.
That's pretty much what that is, though. That is how they die in the movie.
One of the examples, the Volturi, maybe that's what they're called. to show, like, their power. They had just a random vampire, like, kneel before the leader, and he was, like, caressing the dude's face before he ripped his head off. And, like, you could see, like, the look of, like, oh, he's gonna forgive me and I'll get a second chance to, oh, fuck. And then, like you said, like, it fissured, it cracked, all, like...
Right, so could it be just a reaction because they're magical creatures?
I think it's just her signal of death.
Okay. Where were the fangs?
I think
Nobody had fangs.
I think they're supposed to shoot down when they need them.
Because I asked my sister about that. I was like, okay, where are their fangs? Because, like, I think it's the second one where the guy gets bit in the arm. And it's like, oh, the book says when their bite marks are crescent shaped. I'm like,
that's
so
everyone's.
They're shaped like everybody's? There's no unique thing about the crescent moon shape when you bite somebody. Everybody leaves that mark when they bite somebody.
Yeah, like, is there gaping holes where their vampire teeth left?
No, nothing. And they don't ever show that in the movie. They do hiss a couple times, which is weird.
I mean, they take bites, but it looks like a person taking a bite.
Like a bite, yeah.
It's just...
And then the sparkly thing. I mean, that is the biggest... That's too much of an easy target for everybody. I know people are going to be asked if anybody cares. Like,
it's a little easy, but we can, like, branch off into her weird dream she had. Like, she was in this field, and, like, it's her young body, and she's looking across the field, and there's her grandma, and she's like, hey, Nana, and she waves at her. Camera pans left, and there's Edward, and he comes out of the trees, and she's like, no, Edward, she'll see you. He steps out in the light, he sparkles the whole way, and she's like, okay. And then they, like, meet each other in the middle, and she's like, hey, Nan, this is my boyfriend, I wanted you to meet him, but she, like, got cut off because when she put her arm up around Edward, her grandma did the same thing, but there was, like, no one standing by her grandma, and she's like, this is weird. And then, like, it was revealed it was actually her, and she was standing in front of a mirror, and Edward was like, happy birthday, Bella.
oh, she's all old?
Yeah, and she woke up, and, like, I guess that was her stress dream about not being turned into a vampire.
Was that in the movie?
Yep, it was in Eclipse.
I don't remember that part.
That's
just crazy.
Got to watch it.
Damn.
See, even that little tidbit, that's intriguing.
Like, that's more...
Like, okay, so let's say Edward never turned her into a vampire. Now he, like, the part 2 would be after she passes.
Yeah. The other weird thing, too, about that movie is their little inside joke that they did. They're like, oh, well, this are the caps and gowns from all the high schools that we graduated from. It's kind of a thing we do. It's like, that's weird.
That is weird. It's creepy. Like, I don't want to act like a teenager for eternity.
Right. Just because you're stuck in the teenager's body looking like a youth like that doesn't mean you need to keep being that for your whole entire life. That's really weird.
That was one of the things that was brought up why the Cullens left town, because Carlisle or someone was supposed to be 10 years old and people were starting to notice. And I'm like, yeah, none of you look 10 years old. Who is supposed to pass? Like...
Supposed to be 10?
Maybe he said 10 years younger. I heard 10 years old, but I'm just sitting here trying to, like, math the math, and I'm like, yeah.
Or 10 years older, maybe? Yeah.
You guys got, like, 4 or 5 years max because you're pretending to be high schoolers.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people are going to notice after you leave high school, like, hey, you still look like a fucking teenager. What gives?
It's just a little weird. I mean, besides the fact that you're an adoptive family and your siblings are hooking up with each other.
Openly.
In the school that you're going to.
Yeah. I don't get that. And why risk that, too?
I don't think that is a thing that would pass in reality.
No, and also, no, and like I was saying, too, why risk that? Go into school where you can be around a bunch of other people that could, at any time, fucking get cut, scrape their knee, bleed
Sports
in front
injury.
of you, anything. Like, yeah, then there you go, you're fucking screwed. And, like, how do you, like... I'm sure there's a whole other world in there where there's people, like, forging fucking documents for vampires and shit, but, like, come on.
You couldn't have figured... Man, I would have, like, left the U.S., just some European country, and been like, oh, yeah, the Cullens, they're that that weird family that moved in years ago, and like we don't know anything about them. They're super rich and keep to themselves.
Yeah, they could have left it at that, and so they built up this weird inner, like, I don't know, incest like legend with them, which is really odd. And they just really, I think there's like one mention of it in the first movie. They just kind of glance over it and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, the one of the girls that was like introducing Bella to the school and giving her the lowdown on it, she like mentioned it directly. Then one of the other girls were like, "I wish Mr. Cullen would adopt me."
That's creepy.
For so many.
That's even creepier.
It's just like, so everyone's okay with this? Y'all ain't questioning it?
Everybody's just down with it. Just hardcore down with it.
Oh, they must be funding the school.
I mean, they're doing something. Oh my god. They're funding the school with their creepy vampire money. It's all blood money. Nah. Well, we talked about the weird shit. Now, I feel like we've been kicking Twilight while it's down pretty hard right now, and don't worry, we have more weird shit that's going to come up to mind as we're going throughout it, so, as you said, we'll probably jump back and forth to that. But, like you said, you're still somewhat of a fan, a little bit, you said a little bit, or no?
I mean, it's got a soft place in my heart.
For sure, for sure.
I did enjoy it. It was like a nice little distraction in my teen years amongst all the other series.
Okay.
But, as an adult, I don't think I would get into it if it were to relaunch now. I'd be like, oh, this is interesting, and the way it was written, it's really simple, which it isn't a bad thing, but honest to God, it reminds me of, like, the daydreams I would have, and, like, you get to a part, and you're like, oh, wait, no, redo that, and then you restart, and then you change that part, and, like, you just do that, or you have a really good run-through of a fantasy, and then you go back to it, and you're like, this is kind of goofy, I want to change that part, this doesn't really make sense, like, they're trying to replicate daily life of a high school, and
yeah,
it's already so unrealistic. They don't have actual realistic elements.
Twilight.
To ground it.
A compilation of daydreams.
It's super hard. Because, like, how do you write a vampire fantasy novel in the modern world? Like, in high school.
Yeah.
Like, it is a teen. It is aimed at teens, but...
For sure. Well, is that in itself also kind of weird, like an older person writing a story that's aimed directly at, like, teenagers, or...
Yeah, that's...
Is it... I mean, it would have made more sense, I think, if they would have had it take place not in modern day.
Yeah, if she would have made it a little bit older...
Like, 90s, maybe? Like, in the 90s, or maybe even in the late 80s, I think the movie would have made a little bit more sense. It would have hit a little bit better, I think, in my opinion.
I mean, if you would have hit the 70s, like, it maybe would have been slightly cliche, but that's, like, flower power UFO time, so it would have kind of made sense.
Oh, yeah, there would have been a lot more reasons to kind of, like, one-off somebody's actions or somebody doing something weird, you know, like, you know, this hippies, or, you know.
It would have, yeah, their eccentric characters would have made more sense, because, Rosaline, she was, like, very angry. She did not like Bella at all, so, like, I guess that's cool and all.
Which was one of the things that I actually did like about the movie, was that character change. Actually, that was one of the things I did enjoy about the movie, was like her being such a fucking bitch to her all the time, like giving her shit, talking shit to her, looking down on her, like basically almost walking up to her every time she came over and like spitting in her fucking face. She goes from that to like, you're not touching this baby, like nobody's gonna touch this baby, like I will kill somebody who fucking looks at this baby. Like,
yeah, that was a pretty cool change.
I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, and it was kind of sweet to see that. I don't know, I'm kind of a sucker for that, for like the enemy who doesn't like you just because they don't like you, and then they end up becoming like one of your closest allies. I think that's kind of a cool little thing you don't see a lot in movies. I think that is pretty neat. What was one of the things that, besides like I feel like a little bit of the nostalgia is more or less is what kind of makes you still kind of smile at it, but what else, is there anything else that you find in it that brings you a little bit of joy, or that you still kind of find that it has its own little unique feature?
Well, nostalgia aside, I guess it kind of feeds into that, like, love at first sight fantasy. Like, not so much the love triangle part, but like, maybe it is mainly nostalgia. I'm like trying to think of it. I'm like, well, maybe I've been like jokingly teasing about it for so long. It's kind of clouded my judgment on it. I'm like, it's silly and for teens, but like, if you don't think too hard about it, you just take it at face value and you don't dig too hard, like, it's a sweet little romance about this old dude who actually finds love with this girl who, like, seemed directionless. And, like, the stars aligned for him, and, like, they have this happy family, and they ended up, like, making big waves in a domino effect to help the rest of the vampires by taking down the corrupt Voltaire.
Yeah.
Voltaire.
I feel like, I mean, see, that right there is, if you look at it that way, like, it's not bad. Like, it's one of those movies, I think, and I 100% agree with you, that if you kind of, no rude attempts here, if you shut your brain off, don't question too much, eat the popcorn, watch the movie, you're not going to be mad about it. I mean, it is a movie. A movie's a movie. It's entertaining. It is entertaining still. Like, you know, they did have a following. It probably still does have a following until now. Like I said, I do know people that still enjoy that movie very much.
Because, not to be fucking serious, my ex's mom, she was into that hardcore. She was right there with us.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I guess as a teen, I kind of felt it. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I'm like, huh, but it must be a great story if adults really like it.
Well, maybe she saw herself a little bit there. Maybe what's her name? Whatever the writer's name again. I keep forgetting her name.
Stephanie Meyer.
Maybe Stephanie Meyer was like, oh, you know what? This is, some of the ladies out there are gonna get it. And, like, they'll understand. They'll see themselves in Bella.
I think that's what it was. It was kind of like a gentle reach out to be like, remember when you were a teen?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, nostalgia.
I did like this was one of the first the one other thing I did kind of like about it too was I did enjoy, I liked it and I didn't like, there's a little bit of a mixed feeling for the werewolves, quote unquote werewolves, even though they're not werewolves. They end up being just like they're shapeshifters. They just choose to be werewolves or something like that, is what I was told.
Yeah, they're basically shapeshifters.
Yeah. Like the spirit of the wolf is why they all choose it, like the wolf form or something like that. That's why they run with the pack kind of thing. And the fact that they're like indigenous is kind of like another cool thing. Like it does give them a cool role in movies, and I always appreciate those kind of characters. Like when they bring in like Native American characters, I always think it's kind of cool because they always bring some, like, it's not cliche, but it is something cool to see. Like they're almost always portrayed as like druids in movies, which is cool. But at the same time, I can understand how that can be semi-offensive for an indigenous person watching and be like, yeah, we don't all have magical forest powers. Like, you know?
Someone might be like, I fucking hate wolves, and it's like, well, it was the community sentiment that rang out for me.
But that being said too, though, I do like how they did involve a lot of Native American like culture in there. Like not so much culture, but like they had a lot of representation in there with, you know, Jacob and his whole tribe. And then like at the end of the movie when you see that the other half breeds that lived like normal, and they're like, oh, like, what do you eat? And he's like, oh, I eat the meat of animals, like I live off of that, you know. Like I like how they, like, there was then the whole legend behind like the cold ones, and that like that all went back to like colonial era and like Native Americans and stuff like that, and I thought that was a cool representation in there. That I did admire, which helps me perfectly segue this into us talking about, man, you're like, oh, that was cool, or me watching it when we were watching it and they show like the whole like that flashback that we were talking about where they show like the one lady taking out all the village, and then the one lady does that. Like, I'm like, and remember you were like, that would have made a better movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, there's all these characters and all these little scenarios and all these scenes that happen in Twilight that if you would have just, I feel like Twilight Saga should have been like a bunch of small vampire stories.
It should have been. They had a lot of opportunities and to expand on side stories because the backstories themselves could tie into the modern times of whatever they're going with, because the cold ones came back after colonial times. Like,
yeah,
you could just keep digging. But then they turn the camera right back to like Bella and Edward's love story.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where I'm gonna spark the joint, and then we're gonna start talking about our own the theory of millions of dollars, and you have to redo it. Like, what would be your first move?
Alright, well...
You don't gotta worry about casting people specifically, just like the movie.
Just because you know, I don't know actors and actresses' names very well at all.
Well, that's why
I recognize the faces.
Well, that's
but
why I
it
was
still
like,
help.
that's why I was like, whatever. Let's throw that part away. Like, we're just talking like pure story. Like, we're at the writing table right now. We're trying to figure out like what would be our version of this, and how would we do this, and even how you would change a scene around or something.
Well, I think because I'm Team Jacob, I would have tied in more backstory to the Native Americans and like the werewolves, because they were there first, and then the Cullen showed up. So I think you could do like 2 solid books just off that, centered around Charlie not realizing that his best friend has been a part of this shapeshifter woo magical thing his whole life, and then discovering that and being like, holy shit. X-Files theme song. And then all of a sudden, oh my god, my daughter is in love with a vampire, and then that could be the next 2 books, and like just trim that a little bit.
See, when you were telling me this, in my head I was thinking you were talking about like deputy, like he wasn't quite the sheriff, like he's just a deputy, and his buddy, like they're still young, like daughter's not even alive yet, like this is him, like them two. Yeah, okay.
That would be the first 2 books.
Right.
Because you'd be set up and be like, oh, this is crazy town. Bam, daughter comes in, vampires come in.
So that's why dad would be really standoffish, like, no, I know what you are.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck away from my daughter. Like, that would have been way cooler. Yes, you are 100% right. That would have been way, way cooler.
Because then the twist on all of that would have been the Volturi, or I'm going to call him the V.
Volturi, I think.
Volturi?
Yeah, I think so.
The big baddies.
Yep.
You know, once they come to town, because they seem to just be completely controlling every vampire through brute violence. They're like, if you don't follow our rules and live our lifestyle, we'll just kill you. So, like, now he's got that to deal with. So, like, that would be the most drama, is dismantling the big V and, like, all of the shit that went down overseas. Because having the kid, like, it shouldn't have been such a... Like, it's a huge part. It's having a baby, for sure. But I think they made it such a huge part so they could emphasize the imprinting with Jacob.
And also, like, back to, like, the dad, the sheriff, like, he was very much like, yep, no, that happened. Like...
And there was one part
No, dude,
where,
do your fucking... be a cop, dude.
There was one part he tried to be firm with her. He's like, or she was like, I'll be fine, Dad. And he's like, last time you said that to me, you disappeared for 3 days. And that was when she went over with the big B.
To go stop Edward from exposing himself.
All of that. So, like, if he would have known, you could have had that extra layer of drama, because he probably would have stalked her to be like, where's my daughter going?
Yes. Like, have him trying to go get to her at the same time.
Because what if he was an eyewitness and, like, oh shit, now the humans know vampires exist, like, it's just one more human. Is he gonna keep his mouth shut? Okay,
this is my little 2 cents into that. He follows her. He's trying to track her down because she just goes, and she's with homegirl. Like, they drive, where do they go to? Like, Italy or Rome or something like that?
Rome, something.
Well, he follows her there, gets there, goes there, like, he's doing his thing, and then when he goes, like, have him see the whole thing, like, he knows what she's trying to go do. And he doesn't care. He's like, whatever, Edward made his choice. Like, let him fucking do it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
He's trying to find her. He finally finds her. And when he finds her and he sees her, like, he sees her stop Edward. And when he goes to go and get Edward, he'll run into, like, the vampires there when they're, like, when they take them to go meet the Volturi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the dad follows them there, too. Like, sneaks in all, like, James Bond style, you know, gets up in there. and ends up realizing that the leader of the Volturi is a vampire, one of the first vampires that he's seen in Forks when he was younger. So he would like know somebody there, so there would be that like old school like Bad Blood action movie vibe going like, oh, like, and then there'd be extra protection on her because it's like, oh, that's your daughter, now I'm really gonna fuck with her.
Right.
Yeah.
And like in that scene, I want to add, like, he's so good at being a sneaky cop, but at the last second he gets manhandled and brought into the room, and he's like,
Yeah.
I knew you were there the whole time.
Yeah, that
I
could
just
be
wanted
that way
to do
too.
the show.
Yeah, that could be that way as well. Like,
now I'm gonna hurt your father, Bella. Like,
Yep.
It's your father or your lover. Pick.
yeah, do
Shit.
like something like that hangs it in the balance and show us that love really does, like, it's like, that's, you love your dad, you love your man, like,
'Cause that
pick which one you love more, like.
That would have been more of a draw to the Romeo and Juliet vibes that she was pushing hard in that Eclipse movie.
But I think she wanted Romeo and Juliet, but she wanted everybody to have a happy ending. Which, I mean, I think that's what made it more sour for me.
Yeah.
Which makes me have to pull. We're pulling back now into territory of the cool part of Twilight for me. That fucking last scene where it turns into an X-Men movie.
Yeah, that was a badass fight scene.
Dude, I'm watching that shit the first time, and I remember being like, whoa,
just
like,
stunned.
like, holy shit, like,
You're like,
motherfuckers are going down.
All these people are dying. They
Like,
ain't coming back.
Dude punches a hole in the earth, like,
It's just
right, blood, violence,
to the center.
fucking Bella and fucking Edward do a tag team fucking vampire fatality to the fucking leader of the Volturi. The other two people are doing straight up, like, they do like finishing moves on each other, like, it's fucking dope, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it was fantasy.
yeah.
But that's gonna happen if you fight me.
Oh, that was such a bad cop out.
I was so mad when I'm like, dude, what? And then I looked at my sister, I'm like,
so
I'm
upset.
done. She's like, no, what the hell? She's like, that's how it was. I'm like, no,
I
fuck
think
that.
I think I closed my book after that. I'm like, you know what? No. Like, that was a really great scene. Like, I don't know what the rest of this book was gonna look like because there's a lot of pages left, but it was all a dream.
Nope. I told you, the movie should have ended. The movie should have, right when she brought the torch to his face, it should have been like, boom, pan out camera and showing everybody running away, and then just them standing there chilling, and then fade to whatever, to Bella and Edward sitting in the flowers, like, oh, hey, babe, yeah, oh, that was really cute. Oh, look at our daughter, she's adorable. Like, okay, movie's done. At least for that one. Like, I don't know. It was a really, I hated that.
I don't know if they were prioritizing making money and hitting a large audience, so she couldn't be super specific like some fantasy novels are like that, because there could have been more action, there could have been more focus on the family and friend and like town instead of like,
It felt like, I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be a romance story, but
it's hard to make it a really heavy romance story when you are basing it off high school fantasy, because like I've read some romance novels and like the characters are always adults, like albeit they might be in a castle fighting dragons, but they're grown adults, so like
Right.
you have full creative expression. Because like I get it's for teens, so you can't just be writing smut, but I mean the hottest thing that happened was like a couple makeout sessions and then like the honeymoon. They broke the bed.
They broke the bed. Oh my. How risque. But I mean, I get it. You don't want to be like shooting porn.
You don't
know.
give them blow by blows.
Which I mean, I've always said the things that shouldn't be filmed are birth scenes, sex scenes, and rape scenes. Like, those don't need to happen. You don't need to have those in movies. If you,
imagination is fine.
yeah,
enough.
if you can't insinuate and express it there, then you need to work on your scene, or you just need to have it in there. And you shouldn't have actors and filmmakers and people in those kind of awkward situations sitting there filming weird shit like that. But like you said, teenagers wanted more romance. They wanted more, like, we want to see more, like, what's there. They're hinting at it, but also that wasn't the biggest focus on the movie. Was the sexual, like,
Yeah, that wasn't
tension.
really...
Well, not tension, the sexual acts. It was more or less the romantic, emotional connections and the mind and spirit that they were
that soulmate
molding. Yes,
love at first
soulmate.
sight.
Yes.
Which is why she's a fucking bitch for leading Jacob on. Like, it seemed like jumping back to that real fast, because like he didn't want to be with her for that short period of time because he's a werewolf and he didn't want to hurt her. Like, Emily got hurt by her husband. She's like, but you're my best friend. And it's like, you didn't care about him when Edward was around.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of did, but, like...
And no, the whole time she was there with Edward, it was literally just so she could fucking forget about... Or when she was with Jacob, it was so she can just make Edward come back. Because she did that in the attempt. Everything she did was an attempt to get his attention.
That's why she jumped off the cliff.
Yes, she jumped off the cliff. That's why she got on the motorcycle. That's why she did all that shit. Was a straight up, blunt way to just, like, I'm trying to hurt myself because that's when you show up is when I'm hurt.
Yeah, that's one of the other little things that, as an adult, made me like, oh, I don't know, it's not really that great of a book, you guys, because she's at the edge of the cliff, and she's like, this is the only way to make you be with me, and it's like, girl, this is a huge issue, like, if this was reality, you would be getting help right now.
Yeah, that's like, self-harm, homie.
Yeah, you're literally about to throw yourself off a cliff because you can't be with a dude that you knew for how long? Who
was, like, in and out of her mind, too. He was fucking with her head, or... Because apparently that was him, like, trying to talk to her, wasn't it? Or was that...
Yeah, he had that
telepathy?
He had this connection, you know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It was weird, too, because it felt like it wasn't... They kept everything very mysterious with the first one. The first one was very, like...
He was trying to keep it under wraps.
Well, there wasn't a lot of magical stuff going on. Like, there wasn't no powers, and people had different types of gifts. Like, no, this was a vampire, you were this monster, you were this thing, you know? And then in the other movies, they kind of started introducing, like, no, we have, like, each person has different gifts, and we all have different powers now, and, like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then, like, the councils and all that other shit, like...
Right.
That would be my biggest change I would put into the movie if I had a chance to get my hands on it, would be that. Like, I would eliminate a lot of that kind of thing. Like, oh, this person has this kind of weird power, and this person does this. Like, no, I would kind of bring it down to the same way. Like, because that's always been one of my big complaints with werewolves and vampires. How come werewolves are just a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, uncontrollable rage, maybe some good eyesight and senses, and then you got vampires who have all those things too, but they can, like, climb on ceilings, and they can, like, fly and, like, float down, and they have, like, magical powers, and like they always have different, like, they're OP'd kind of in a way.
Yeah.
But I would try, if I had my hands on the Twilight movies, I would attempt to try to make it a little bit scary again. I would attempt to try to make it a little bit more, like, the audience would have a hard time to be like, okay, is this somebody who she really should be around? Like, I would have, like, she would see the real danger. She would see them feed. Like, she would see, like, no, there would be no, like, oh, we're, like, we feed off the blood of animals. Like, yeah, we feed off the blood of animals, but at some point we do have to have human blood.
Right.
Like,
fair.
Like, we have to have it. Like, we pick one day out of the year. That would be the creepy shit right there. If we pick one day out of the year.
Yeah.
So I have to, like, make that be the tension of why he has to leave. Why are you leaving? I have to go. Why do you have to go, Edward? I have to leave. You don't understand.
Right,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then she would be like, well, where are you? You have to come back. And then, like, I can't come back. Why? I have to go feed? I don't want you to see me like this.
You just be like, I'm sorry. This is just, you happen to be on the one day of the year I do this.
That, or, like, he does get to leave, and that's why she's all sad and depressed, because he's like, hey, I'm leaving this day, and blah, 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 and she's like, doesn't know why, and he's not telling her why. And then, as the extra fuck you to the story, you can have Jacob be a dick.
Yeah.
And Jacob be like, I'm going to take you to show you the person that you're in love with.
And then he'll be the shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, and be like, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'll show you what I am, and he shows her that he's a werewolf. And he's like, but I can control this. See how I'm not hurting you? I will never hurt you.
Yeah.
And then transform back into a human and be like, okay, now I want to show you the man that can hurt you and would hurt you.
Oh my god.
And then her just falling into his shit and be like, yeah, like, does it sound extremely manipulative? Yes, they're being very manipulating.
Edward was manipulative in the original.
Yes, exactly. But I would have each time, it would be each person's kind of, like, turn of, like, just twisting each person to their own, like, I would make it a very, because it's all very toxic. Everybody's very fucking terrible to each other.
Yeah.
I would Zack Snyder the fuck out of this. I would turn this shit up to, like, 30, and, like, I would show you everybody in that story would be really shitty, but then they would have an arc that would kind of make them still shitty, but you have to respect them for being shitty. Like standing, like it'd basically be like Twilight meets Shameless is what I would do. I would make that
Oh.
shit grimy. I would fucking go all the way with it, and I think people would dig it, honestly. But yeah, I think he would take her. He would take Bella. He would take her to see Edward, and Edward would. It would be fucked up because maybe Edward could go after like another woman, but he wouldn't do the usual vampire thing of like, oh, like meet you here. We're walking. Oh, we're going to this alley, and I'm gonna grab you and I'm gonna bite your neck. Like, no.
Maybe some brutal raw
Yes,
shit.
like he like this girl's like walking somewhere and she just gets bodied like boom, like fucking
Full
just
slam.
snatched up by this fucking creature, and she sees him, and that's when his skin glows. You see his veins would glow from drinking the blood, and they glow like red, and it's him just like eating the fucking like life essence from them. Like not only would he like drink the blood, but they're vampires like also just they absorb. They would hold the people and they would absorb all their essence in their life from them.
Oh my
And she would
God.
see this.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah.
That'd be so good to see though.
Yeah, like imagine like looking up and this beautiful man that she's fallen in love with, and oh, he's dreamy, and then look over and see like this elongated jaw, fucking heavy brows, like decayed looking monster.
Almost demonic looking. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like possessed, not even like vampire looking, like not pretty vampire at all.
Oh, like true form.
Almost like the same person, but look like they're like just all like just make them look very creature-esque, like make them what they are. They're the cold ones, remember?
Yeah.
Make it a fucking monster and an evil creature, and then that would be how I would end the first Twilight movie. I would have it all bared out right there in the first one. Like boom, that's the first movie. That would be the first movie right there.
You just shoved 3 movies into the first one, so
Yeah,
works for
it
me.
would happen there. They would be together. It would pick up pretty quick. I think he would play in if they had to have them. I wouldn't have them going to the school.
No.
That would be weird.
I think it'd be better if they were young adults. Like maybe working at a morgue or something. Maybe that's too cliche.
I think the more would be cliche. I don't. If they had to be in school, if that's something that has to be there.
College?
Maybe college. Maybe she comes back to Forks to see her dad because she's done with college.
That makes sense too.
She's done with college, and she's also just done with the city where she's living. She doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, because in the original, she wanted to be closer to her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So.
Yep, there you go. Maybe she has a heavy fallout with her mom, and so she's like, I'm going back over here.
Yeah.
Or her and her mom get into it or something. Maybe her mom is really... Because her mom in the movie was pretty shitty. She was she was a pretty bad mom.
I didn't see a lot of scenes of that, but yeah.
She's absent in the movie, basically. And she's very little does she try to keep in contact with her daughter, who's all the way over there and gets married, has a baby, goes missing for 3 days. Like, when do you see the mom looking for her at all in the movie?
That's
no.
true.
But yeah, I'd have her mom be just really shitty. And so she's like, yeah, I want to get the fuck away from her. I'm going back to see my dad. And goes and sees her dad, and there's that want of her dad, like, being nervous because she's there, but her feeling like, I'm pushing her, I don't want you to be here. But she's like, well, why don't you want me here?
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
then the build up because he knows.
Because he knows there's vampires
Oh my
here. I don't want
God.
you here. You're not going to believe me if I tell you why I don't want you here.
See, doesn't that sound better?
Like, comment, and subscribe if you think these ideas are better than what we got in the fucking Twilight movies.
Because I want to see more of that. The cold ones, the native woman sacrificing herself, like just that. That's all I want.
Yeah,
Spin on the werewolves and shapeshifters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, all these things would be other. I would have it, like, it would pour it back and forth into the movies. I think that would be the way to take it. Take it to the past. Bring it to the take it from the past to the present, and then the next one would be back to the past, and then the present. Like, have it go up and down, and then in the last movie is where they all ties together.
Yeah, because I think the Volturi?
Mm-hmm.
I think dismantling that should be like the biggest highlight of why all of these timelines are connecting and clashing, and why the history was brought up at any point.
Yeah, they're all bad people, and like that to me would be the big climactic fight of the movie.
Because
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because then afterwards you can, like, the baby, the marriage, all of that would be the happy de-escalation of the story. And then you could have your happy ending, but it wouldn't feel forced.
No.
Because they went through so much for so long.
Right. Like, I feel like more time should have definitely passed in the movies, too. Like, I feel like a lot of that should have happened in, like, a couple of months, didn't it?
The pacing, because of the books, it was weird. Like, the first one took too long. The second one was, like... Second and third one was like, look at all this cool stuff.
Look at these neat tricks we can do now.
Look at our house.
Look at the house, this set. That's what I'm saying. Like, the final act wouldn't take place there. The final act would be all of them meeting each other and learning from one another and doing this whole thing. That'd be like the whole first half of the movie would be everybody like meeting up and catching up and a lot of emotional opening up to one another and different connections and whatnot. And then the last part of the movie would be like, we're going to the Volturi. Because they'll never expect this.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? Nobody. Like,
yeah,
exactly.
Then you have an organized army-ish.
Yep, and instead of them standing their ground and meeting the Volturi, they're like, no, we're going to fucking go to them and catch them with their fucking pants down.
Yeah.
And they do it. I would have a big bloody battle scene where everybody gets fucking... I would bring back that scene.
A real scene.
Oh, yeah. People would die. The castles would fall. Fucking everything would go down. People would perish. Maybe... I think I would probably have... just for the sake of like heartbreak or whatever, I would have I'd have Jacob get his like lose an eye or something, you know.
I was gonna say maybe Carlisle still dies. The father figure.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Collins, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and see the vision I think that she would give him at the end of the movie if we're gonna have, because no, I don't think I would have powers and shit wouldn't be in there. So like maybe she would still have little things like that, like just get like sights of the future.
Maybe they all have that or something.
Yeah.
Just so it's like congruent.
Or maybe the fact that their daughter's half breed was what makes her have powers. It's like, oh, they're crazy, like, oh, they're no good to have, and they're like, no, like they're actually very powerful. That's why you guys are afraid of them, because they're stronger than you. Yeah, like use that and then be like she gives him a vision of her, or he sees some kind of way of showing, like the last scene of the movie would be like, instead of seeing their daughter with Jacob, they keep thinking it's Jacob with their daughter, and it's not. It's Jacob's son.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
And they're like, well, where's Jacob's son? And then like, well, where's Jacob? And like when you see them on a beach or something, they're riding on the back of like a wolf, and the wolf has only one eye.
Oh, hey, yeah.
So is Jacob. Like, Jacob's still there with them. Like, kind of thing. Yeah. I would make his story a tragedy. I would make Jacob a very tragic hero. He would be semi the martyr. Like, I would have something happen to him where he gets scarred. Like, like they fuck him up. I would have, like, something bad happen. I would figure out some kind of way where Jacob would get captured. And they would do something to mess with him that he would never be able to change back into a human. So he gets stuck as a wolf. So he's just like, he's stuck in that form.
Oh, shit.
I would do that for his character, and that's why him and Bella couldn't be together. That's why Bella ends up with Edward, is because Jacob straight up can't be with her. And that's why she goes back to Edward, because when he's taken by the Volturi, because he knows about Bella and him mixing together, so they take him for like questioning or something, you know. I would figure out a way to get that in there. But the Volturi would take Jacob and torture him and fuck with him in his mind and shit, and eventually he would like go into like a rampant feral state, and he just wouldn't be able to come back from it, and he would just stay in this like wolf form. And I think he would be the only one I would have be like full on like four-legged like wolf. I would go straight up underworld with the werewolves. They would be
on two legs.
Yeah, they would be like on two legs, and but when they would run, they would do like, you know, the 4-leg sprint, but I think for the most part they would be standing up. They would be,
because that's like werewolf.
Yeah, that's what a werewolf is, you know.
Yeah.
To me, anyways.
No, for sure. Her version of werewolf was totally just shapeshifter.
Yeah. Oh man, just gives. I mean, I have other. Now it's kind of making me laugh right now that I'm getting like a weird spark in my brain to like start thinking of other different stories that from us just sitting here talking. I'm like, I can go like a couple different ways with this. This can go a couple different ways.
I mean, that's the fun part of it, though. That's why I always read lots of fiction.
Yeah, and that's why I assume if you're still listening along with us, you still listen, and hope you're enjoying it. Anything else you want to add into this? This will probably be a 2-part thing. We're going to probably break this up into 2 parts. This will be the closing of this one. We have a part 1. We're going to do what they did to the last book of Twilight. We're going to break this. We're going to break our Twilight podcast episode into 2 parts.
It's appropriate because I feel like we could discuss other aspects.
Yeah. So this will be the little beginning part here, and then you guys will start up the second part, and you guys will be able to already have gotten all the other bullshit out of the way, and there'll just be a pure session of us just spitballing straight up movie ideas, because we have millions of dollars to make these movies.
Oh yeah, we got GoFundMe.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to add to the listeners there? Anything else you want to say to everybody?
As if you could outrun me. I saw this bandana that said that in the script of Twilight around this little husky's neck.
That's adorable.
It was the cutest. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Wow. I think that is pretty adorable.
I would have given it a sequin collar though, so you could have the sparkly.
Oh yeah, he would have to sparkle. Yeah, I would just write it in sequence so it would sparkle that way. Oh man.
There are good things that come from Twilight.
Oh yeah,
Not to just tear it down, all of it.
We're talking about it. And it's enough for a conversation, if anything else. But you all take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day. If this is how you decide to have this in your day, and if you decide to listen to us for the end of your day, well then, good night, and I hope you have a wonderful, nice dreams and get a good night rest. You take care of yourselves, my friends. I will have other episodes of this up on my channel. Look up for it. It's Hardcore Fiction, my podcast. I also have Tea and Stream, where I stream some of my favorite games and try out new games and do a lot of pretty much this, just smoke weed and talk and enjoy conversations. So, yeah. Until we meet again, my friends, I'm your host, Ronan.
And this is Kelly.
Hardcore Fiction is what you've been listening to, and I will see you in the next adventure.